Hey, come see us on tour. We'll be in Chicago, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Duluth, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets. Guess what? Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, accused as the main plotter in the 9/11 attacks, agrees to plead guilty. What? So 23 years later, this guy, who I'm pretty sure they tortured in Guantanamo, right? Isn't that the guy that they waterboarded 180 times?
I thought it's who John Kiriakou got, right?
I
thought he said it was the Ron Jeremy guy.
Yeah. Is that the guy that... Go ahead. What?
He was the Ron Jeremy one.
Well,
like, he looks like Ron Jeremy.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why I thought...
Yeah. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, accused as the mastermind of Al-Qaeda's September 11th, 2001 attacks on the United... And I hope you appreciate that I'm covering this because YouTube's going to demonetize it, just so you know. Has agreed to plead guilty. The Defense Department said, even though the Associated Press is covering this, they won't let me cover this, just so you know, okay? The development points to a long-delayed resolution in an attack that killed... Okay, Pup. Mohammed and two accomplices, Walid bin Atash and Mustafa El-Hawasi, are expected...
Hey, you spelled Dick Cheney wrong.
Yeah! They are expected to enter the pleas at the military... Yeah, he's at Guantanamo Bay. As soon as next week. Defense lawyers have requested... That means this week. The defense lawyers have requested the men receive life sentences in exchange for their guilty pleas, according to letters from the federal government received by relatives of some of the nearly 3,000 people killed outright on the morning. And of course, that's what made those buildings collapse, was that they were hit by aluminum planes.
Jimmy, are you aware that Kimberly Cheetle from the Secret Service, that qualified, powerful woman that ran the Secret Service, she's the one who took Dick Cheney down into the bunker?
No.
Yeah. I told you, continuance of government. She brought it up at the hearing, got cut off by the guy bloviating. But COG. She brought that up at the hearing, got cut off.
Oh, I wanted to make a segment out of that, and I forgot. So there's a clip. I'll put it together. I don't want to explain it. Anyway, here is fairly obvious that the 9/11 mastermind received a plea deal because the government didn't want a trial. Trials mean discovery. Discovery means truth. So go ahead.
Dick Cheney's old. You don't have to stress him out with being the guy who's the mastermind. I'm pretty sure. I think he is.
And does he have a message to some of the 9/11 families who wanted to see a full trial, who wanted to see this kind of come to a fuller process?
So look, this is basically what Jake said. This is something that we had no involvement in. He didn't have any involvement in. And so the White House played no role in this process. And the president directed his team to consult as appropriate with officials and lawyers and Department of Defense, obviously. We have said this before. We are, our hearts go out to the families who lost the loved ones on that day. The president on 9/11 has honored them every year, and the families who lost their loved one on that terrible day.
So, look, I have a lot of conspiracies to uncover for that happened in just the last few months. So sorry if I can't get into the conspiracies from 20 years ago. Hey, here's a fun thought. I bet a lot of those families are now Trump voters and therefore also considered terrorists now. I bet you.
They could be in Guantanamo next to Ron Jeremy.
So how convenient for the federal government and all the people involved in 9/11 that, wasn't it amazing that the plane was just allowed to fly for like another hour before it didn't get... It's just amazing. All the stuff that had... There's so many coinky dinks on 9/11. The fact that those buildings were built to withstand a jet flying into them. And then the jets are made out of aluminum. And that building's made out of unbelievably strong steel. And then all of a sudden, even the parts of the building that weren't on fire. And so the steel wouldn't be weakened. They just also collapsed. And I'm totally sure that happened the way the government said, even though we know that Building 7 was imploded and didn't collapse the way the government said, because we had the guy on the engineer from the University of Fairbanks, Alaska, who proved it didn't happen the way the government said it happened.
Wait a minute, Jimmy. Now hold on just a second. They had the Patriot Act written down and ready to go before this terrible event.
That's right.
Okay. Telling me the government, you think that they didn't think ahead of time to have that Patriot? You know how they're always having a lot of forethought and planning for bad things. They don't just happen to us all the time because they have so much forethought. And so that's how they thought to come up with the Patriot Act before this thing even happened, because they're always known for thinking ahead like that. It makes perfect sense, and you sound crazy.
So the prosecution has very generously offered Mohammed and his two accomplices a plea deal that involves key leadership roles at the Boeing Aircraft Company.
Isn't it weird they just let Julian Assange go and now this guy?
Yeah,
I guess this is over, huh?
So the last thing they want is a court case. The last thing they want is a court case.
Well, I mean, they don't have to obey any laws anyway. It's weird they even have to do this to like avoid it. Just ignore the law how you always do, guys.
George Bush, Dick Cheney testified behind closed doors, not under oath, about 9/11, and everybody just lets that happen because the media is bought by the same people who let 9/11 happen.
Well, in fairness, though, Jimmy, I'm sure George Bush his testimony was he just had to finish reading My Pet Goat.
Yeah. I love how she can't even look. She can't even look up because she knows she's lying. What?
Shattered inside. You could just see what it did to her. Like Jen Psaki is still fresh. It still looks fresh. This chick, it just ravaged her insides having to do this job.
All this lying has really wrecked her. It really has. And her hair is just like a distracting cat toy. He just flops it around while evading the point. Watch this. Let's watch it again.
To some of the 9/11 families who wanted to see a full trial, who wanted to see this kind of come to a fuller process.
Yeah, I can't make eye contact.
This is basically what Jake said. This is something that
I can't make eye contact.
He didn't have any involvement in, and so the White House played no role in
she
this
can't
process.
even look up, not even a little.
And the president directed his team to consult as appropriate with officials and lawyers and Department of Defense, obviously. We have said this before. We are. Our hearts go out to the families.
Okay, our hearts
who lost their loved ones.
About your hearts
on that day, and the president on 9/11 has honored them every year, and the families.
She can't even look up
on that terrible day.
Oh, what a job! What a job!
That's a tough job to be press secretary for. I got honest. I'm not. No kidding, because your job is to what?
You could see the toll it's taken.
Somebody like Jen Psaki, though, she's so dead inside. She's like a Rachel Maddow. They're so dead inside. I wonder if I'm allowed to say this. It doesn't matter. This video's already demonetized. Doesn't matter.
Inside dead Psaki?
Yeah, inside dead Psaki.
Well, lizard people don't crack like that. I'm guessing this one must not be a lizard person.
Yeah.
If I can apply some science to this.
I'm supposed to tell you this, Jimmy. Someone should tell Jimmy that the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has just rejected this plea deal, so it may not happen.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my. Lloyd Juice Austin.
So here's what I wonder. So here's my next theory. So if they actually do have a trial, which that I don't think they're going to have a trial. If they actually do have a trial, why can't they just keep them locked up for another 24 years? Why do they have to even give them a plea deal or a trial? They haven't done it for 23 years. Well, you see, they had this Iran war in the chamber ready to go, and they had it. They had a good reason to blame it on Trump's assassination on Iran. So then they'd get half the country, the other half of the country, on board with going to war with Iran. So that it really did kind of fall apart when Trump just turned his head a little bit. It kind of screwed up their whole game.
Jimmy, when he looked at that chart, that beautiful chart that I love so much of illegal immigrant, when he looked at his favorite chart, that's what foiled by his love of that chart. That chart, I love it so much.
Okay.
If Biden calls me, he goes, how did how did that bullet not hit you? I go, look at that chart, and I love that chart. It's such a terrific chart.
well, luckily, Joe, the way I didn't get hit in the head was you had an open border for 4 years, and I made a chart out of it. So I turned my head to look at it, and the bullet just missed me.
Oh, he's the road runner. This guy, he's a goddamn road runner.
And you cannot deny. I mean, I guess there are people who deny it. They think somehow Trump set that up. That a guy who got 4 deferments from Vietnam somehow would go, hey, I know, I'm winning this election in a landslide. How about we have somebody take a shot at me and just miss at the last second?
Just pierce my ear with it. With or the caliber that we're not allowed to know. What caliber was it? We still don't know.
So you know what people say now is that, well, how come we haven't seen a picture of the hole in Trump's ear? How come? So they're saying that never happened. They're saying that it was all set up.
How come Biden is 8 inches taller? That's a better question.
I would love to know why Biden is so much taller.
Do people really think that's far-fetched? If Saddam Hussein had doubles, do you think the most powerful nation on earth, they don't do the same goddamn thing if they have to do that? You think they're not going to have doubles? And probably like those masks you can go look up on YouTube. They have since Mission Impossible, the first movie 20 years ago, they've been showing off CIA masks. You don't think they can do that if they have? I don't understand why they have a guy 8 inches taller doing it. That makes no sense.
Yeah. Wow.
I think you get a smaller guy as long as you're faking it. I honestly don't know what the hell to make of that.
Would you get a shorter guy and put lifts in his shoes instead of getting a taller guy? You can't make a taller guy shorter. You can make a shorter guy taller.
Yes, you're supposed to just not believe your lying eyes. But I don't understand, like, no one thought of that. It's like even the deep state's falling apart. Like they've DEI'd themselves into oblivion as well, not just all the other institutions.
Hey, the mainstream media is unreliable and dishonest. That's why you watch this show, right?
Yes.
How can you trust them when they never told you the truth about Russiagate, Julian Assange, Ukraine, COVID, Syria? That's where our sponsor, Ground News, comes in. Ground News is an app and a website that gathers related articles from around the world in one place so you can compare the coverage, kind of like what we do with this show. They give you a visual breakdown of the news outlets, tell you if a source has a political bias, and how reliable the reporting is and who owns them. Kind of like what we do with the show. Check this out. If you search Donald Trump for the top articles on his conviction, here's a story. It's after guilty verdict, Trump will appear on the ballot in the last presidential primaries of 2024. So we see 27 related articles. 8 are left-leaning, 2 are right-leaning, 11 are center. Bias distribution is 52% center. And it even shows their logos along with their factuality and their ownership. Very helpful. Ground News gets you access to independent and international perspectives, not just nationalist sources with the same political agendas. It helps you to find the discrepancies and how certain topics are covered, and shows you how corporate agendas can influence the news you read. Kind of like what we do with this show. Sounds a lot like this show. So if you want to see it for yourself, go to ground.news/JD. Use the link below to get 40% off unlimited access. That's ground.news/JD. Hey, come see us on tour. We'll be in Chicago, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Duluth, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets.